also recommended this episode, and I got a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff to talk about this one as well. It's going to be at the end of the episode. If you haven't listened to the episode yet, I recommend listening to it, and I will see you at the end of this episode. It'll be an interesting one to talk about. So I present to you now episode 283, Sam the Sandown Clown. An attempted kidnapping turns really weird really quick. And then we take a look at the story of Sam, a clown who was in town for just one day. But where he came from was far away from any big top on Earth. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. It's Root Canal Day. I'm recording this episode pretty early because I have to run to the dentist. But anyways, you can tell how excited I am about that. Let's go ahead and move on to a happier topic, and that is our Patreon, our newest Patreon supporters. We have Dalton Ogden. We have Carson Wright, good friend of mine actually, I know him in real life. It's weird when somebody you know is like, here's $5 a month. When before, if I'd been like, hey Carson, can I borrow $5? I want to go buy some gum. He'd be like, get a job, hippie. But now he can pay me $5 a month for doing the show. Actually, no, he's a really good guy. He would have given me some gum. And I'm going to apologize right now because this is one of the names I have a really hard time pronouncing. One of the names. There's so many names I have a hard time pronouncing. I'm going to say it very slowly here. Jeremy Davis. I had a friend named, it's Jeremy, right? I had a friend for years. I kept calling him, really good guy. I really miss him. I haven't seen him in years, but I thought it was pronounced Jeremy. I thought that's how you said it, was Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy. And I'm 25 at this point. I wasn't 7. And finally he pulls me aside one day and he goes, dude, that's not how you pronounce my name. That's how people used to make fun of me in school. I was like, what? I thought that's how you said. I thought your name was Jeremy. And he's like, shh, quit saying it. You've been saying it all this time. My name's not Jeremy. It's Jeremy. But then I've met people who said, oh, no, my name's Jeremy. So I don't even know anymore. But either way, Jeremy Davis, thank you so much for the support of the show. Same thing with you, Dalton Ogden and Carson Wright. Sorry, Dalton, I don't have a funny story about your name. It's a very cool name, though. It reminds me of Timothy Dalton because I'm an old man and I know who Timothy Dalton is. Let's go ahead and get started with the story here. So the first story, I woke up and I read this story. Now, a lot of times I'm doing a lot of research and I'm kind of building this stuff up, but every so often a story pops up and I'm like, this is it. This is what I need to talk about this story today. So weird. And it actually just happened on Friday. So we're going to go ahead. Let's hop into Jason Jalopy. We're going to drive to Cleveland, Ohio. We're going way back in time to August 16th, 2019. Driving by in the Jason Jalopy. And we stop at a street corner and we see a 12-year-old girl sitting down waiting for the bus. We're just kind of sitting there eating our gum that Carson got us, and we see a car pull up and a dude starts talking to the girl. So now we're like, oh, great, it's going to be one of those type of stories, right? He's talking to the girl and he's basically like, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm waiting for a school bus. I am a school-aged child after all. I'm 12 years old. And he's like, well, you know, I could drive you to school. And she's like, no, I'm good. He's like, can I ask you a couple questions? Like, he wanted to talk with her at this point. She's like, no, but she kept shutting him down. And when the police were talking about this, the police said she was very insistent she did not want to talk to this guy. But he keeps on like, hey, you know, like, so what do you think is Fortnite Season 10? And she's like, dude, just leave. I don't want to talk to you. He ends up driving away. So we're like, whew, that was close. And a couple minutes later, the car pulls back up. And the guy gets out of the car and gets his cell phone and begins videotaping what's going to happen. I guess the terms are recording. It's not videotaping if you're using an iPhone, but again, old man. He begins recording what he's going to do. So he gets out of his car, he starts walking towards her, and he's recording her. And then he begins to pee on her. Just pee right on her. Now, here's the thing. No matter how bad your day is, that didn't happen to you. And trust me, you can have a really bad day You just stubbed your toe. It doesn't have to be super dramatic. It doesn't have to be horrible, life-changing things. But okay, let's just go with the lighthearted one. You stub your toe and you're like, oh my god, I stubbed my toe. But if you stubbed your toe and then you turn around and there's a dude peeing on you, total, I'm having a root canal today. As long as the dentist doesn't pee in my mouth, I'm good. He begins peeing on her in broad daylight, middle of the day. And it's funny because we have the quotes of what she was saying, like that original conversation, how she was responding to this guy, this weirdo trying to get her in his car. And it was very like girl at the club. Like when you go to a bar or something like that and you try picking up a random girl and she's not interested, they just are very just like stone-faced. They usually don't string you along. I'm like, hey. That's pretty much all. Like, hey, and they're like, no. I'm like, okay. Hey, I don't buy drinks, but if I'm like, hey, how you doing? They'll be like, no. I'm like, okay. And turn and walk away. Like, a lot. And that's what this girl was, which is unfortunate because not that it was unfortunate she was shutting this guy down. It makes me think she's used to this kind of interaction with adults, where she's just got into that club girl mode where she's like, nope. Just very, very brusque. She wasn't even trying to pretend to be polite. So I think she's had encounters with men like this before. But as he's, and again, if someone was peeing on me, I think I've never been peed on in my life. I don't know how I would react. I don't think I would enjoy it. That would be a turn of events. I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. I think I would just see red and then there would be red everywhere. Like, I can't imagine my reaction if a stranger pissed on me. Her reaction was, what's your problem? Like, I'm assuming she tried moving out of the way during this whole thing, but again, very nonplussed about the whole thing. She's like, what's your problem? Well, your problem right now is that somebody is peeing on you. It's such a normal reaction. It'd be the same thing if someone spilled coffee on you. You're like, what's wrong with you? But instead of coffee, it's coming out of someone's genitals. And so he runs away. I think she did not give him the reaction that he wanted. She didn't freak out or run away or start crying or anything like that. She basically stared up into that stream and basically said, what's your problem? Like, again, putting it back on him. He didn't have any power in the situation. He runs away. A couple hours later, he's spotted looking through some cars in the area, acting weird, so someone calls the cops. Now, the cops have a description from the girl, the cops have a description from the person who saw him wandering the neighborhood, and the cops know who this guy is. He's a cop. He was a cop. His name is Solomon Hiwatiwa. 34 years old, he'd been a cop for 5 years. And it was funny in the article, they're like, he's also been cited for losing his walkie-talkie. And I'm like, I get you need to pad out your article, but I don't think that's relevant to peeing on a 12-year-old girl. And he's facing a ton of charges. So, bravo to that girl. He did not get what he wanted from her. I think he initially wanted to kidnap her and do whatever horrible things. And then when she shut him down, he wanted to have some sort of power over her. And even in that moment when she's being peed on, she's basically just like, you're a little man. I'm not reacting to this in any way, shape, or form as you would want me to. Again, I don't think she sat there like Buddha. I don't think she sat there in a monk pose as it's raining down on her. But she definitely did not give him the power and the panic that he wanted. So, good on you, 12-year-old girl. I always love stories where people get their comeuppance in a very, very easy way. But let's go ahead and move on to our next story now. Now, our next story, we're going to England. Jolly old England. And luckily, the Jason Jalopy doubles as a chitty chitty bang bang cart. So, we're driving it, and then it starts to slowly go up into the sky. Starts flying through the sky. Magical wings pop out of it, like old wings. Remember that movie, Return to Oz, that movie was a bizarre, it wasn't just a bizarre movie, but it was weird, like, effect on my childhood. One, like, I was maybe, like, 8 or 6 or something like that when the movie came out. It made me super attracted to goth girls because Fairuza Balk is in it. I think I've developed a stutter doing the show. Fairuza Balk is in it, and she's a little goth girl. And may not want to tell that story so close to the abduction story, but I was age appropriate when I had a thing for her. And now I just like goth girls in general. There's not many goth adults, or when they're usually just called heroin users. But the reason why I'm getting at that was That the whole movie totally tripped me out, but I remember that scene where they took a couch and if you've never seen the movie, you have no idea what I'm talking about. I recommend it, Return to Oz. You take a couch and you put a moose head on one end of it and put some feathers in the side of it, and then they threw some juice on it and it came to life and they flew away. That is what I'm trying to say is that is the aerodynamic ability of the Jason Jalopy. It took way too long to build that visual, but I'll save it. Dead Rabbit recommends Return to Oz. Okay, so it's a totally scary movie. Dorothy gets electroshock treatment at the beginning of the movie. That's how dark that movie is. But anyways, where was it going? Oh yeah, we're flying the Jason Jalopy. But we do land in England. And we land in the year 1973. It's May. It's a beautiful May afternoon. And two little friends, they're both 7 years old, are out on a magical adventure, walking around a golf course. Specifically, we're at Lake Common, which is in Sandown, which is on the Isle of Wight. And on that location, at Lake Common, there's the Shanklin and Sandown Golf Club. Now, we got these two little kids. Now, we don't have names, so we're going to call them... You know what, dude? We are going to call them Dalton and Jeremy. They were Patreon subscribers this episode. Sorry, Carson. You're a ghost floating around, but I don't mention you again. So, Jeremy is the girl. This is going real off the rails. Anyways, Jeremy and Dalton... You can assign which gender you want to be. There's a boy and a girl walking through this golf club. Yeah, walking through this golf club. Now, again, we don't know their real names. We don't know. We don't know their real names. Okay, so I'll just refer to them as boy and girl. I think that'll be far easier than calling... Okay, anyways, boy and girl are walking through the golf club. Golf course. You're walking through the golf course, okay? And... the golf course butts up against an old, semi-abandoned airfield, which is ridiculous because you either want to land your plane at a functional airfield or not at all. Like, I can understand if it was an emergency airfield, but it was described as a oft-abandoned airfield, which, again, there's just like bales of hay in the middle of it. Planes are crashing. So, anyways, let's get this back on track. They are at the golf course against the airport. Now, they're walking across this foot. They're just having fun, just two little kids having fun walking around. Jeremy and Dalton on an adventure. So they're crossing this wooden footbridge, right? And it's over this creek. And they're like, dun, 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 walking through. And they're walking through, and then they hear a... It's this really weird sirens. And they said it sounded like a distorted ambulance siren. It sounded more like a cat. Now they're looking around. They're like, can we pet it? But they can't figure out what the sound is, but it does kind of stop them in their tracks. And they're sitting there, and they're standing on the footbridge, and then, from underneath the footbridge, they see a blue-gloved hand reach out of the darkness and begin beckoning them towards the hand. These two kids are like, what? Are we seeing this correctly? Because not only are they seeing a blue-gloved hand kind of saying, come here, come here. The hand seems to have a wooden slat that pops out of a sleeve going into the glove of the hand. And the hand only has 3 fingers. But it's still kind of beckoning them closer. And they just stand there motionless. And then the owner of the hand appears. They see a near 7-foot tall person step out from underneath the bridge. Long, lanky limbs. A perfectly round head that's too large for its skinny frame. And then the descriptions get really weird. They see its face. It has a hat, like a pointed hat with a little ball on top. That's not the face, that's the hat, but I'm describing that first. Now we're going down to the face. The face looked like someone was wearing a mask. It had triangle eyes, a little brown nose, and a mouth. But you could see into those darkness. So it wasn't just like it was necessarily having makeup. It wasn't just like someone had makeup on. It was like someone had put on a helmet that had these markings on it, and you couldn't see through it. But underneath the hat, they could see hair. So hair was coming out of this supposed mask. Imagine someone putting on a scuba diver mask, because the head's completely round. So it wasn't just covering the face. Imagine someone putting on a scuba diving mask, so it's completely round over their head. But then there's hair coming out of the top, the scuba diving helmet,